and Rob McGregor welcome you to a place where all kinds of phenomena flourish. Voices whisper ancient secrets, signs and symbols are abundant. UFOs, ETs, ghosts, and even the dead move about freely. Here we meet authors, researchers, and investigators of the mysterious, the strange, and of the inexplicable anomalies that surround us. Step out of the everyday world and take a journey into the mystical underground.
Welcome to the Mystical Underground. Thank you for joining us. This is Trish McGregor.
And Rob McGregor.
And our producer and tech magician, John Posey. You can go to themysticalunderground.com where we make regular blog posts where you can find out about our books. Among them are Phenomena, Harnessing Your Psychic Abilities, The Secrets of Spirit Communication, Sensing the Future, and Aliens in the Backyard. Our upcoming book is called The Shift, Reports from the Mystical Underground. Trish's new novel, White Crows, is out now, and Rob has been slowly releasing the audio edition of Indiana Jones and the Staff of Kings. Our guests today are Preston Dennett and Dolly. And Dolly, I don't know your last name.
Safran.
Oh, Safran. Okay, sorry. Okay, Rob, yours.
Okay, Preston Dennett has first began investigating UFOs in 1986 after learning that his family and friends and coworkers were having encounters. Since then, he has interviewed hundreds of people and investigated a wide variety of cases. He has written 29 books and more than 100 articles about UFOs and the paranormal. He is a frequent guest on radio and TV and speaks to audiences across the United States. His latest book is SYMMETRY, a True UFO Adventure. It features the incredible story of UFO alien contact by a woman named Dolly Safran. And we're pleased that Dolly is here with us today, along with Preston. Dolly Safran has worked as a limo driver, assistant manager at Wendy's, a zookeeper, a bus driver, security guard, a nurse, and more. She has also worked for the U.S. Department of the Treasury and the Department of Defense, I think through the Army. Dolly has had lifelong experiences with extraterrestrials that began at the age of 2, and they are ongoing. She has an astonishing story that she has told to Preston about her varied experiences among the Greys. What makes Dolly's story particularly interesting is that she has had total recall of her experiences since age 14 and even remembers the earlier experiences that had been blocked. Besides that, while many abductees have fearful experiences, Dolly considers the Greys more like family than frightful aliens and doesn't consider herself an abductee. Welcome, Dolly.
Welcome Preston.
And Preston. We'll probably be asking Dolly most of the questions since it's her experience, but jump in anytime, Preston. You're the expert. But first, I'd like to ask you your thoughts about Dolly and her experiences. You've heard it all before. How does Dolly's experience compare to other abductees that you've interviewed? And what kind of reaction are you getting from the book so far?
Well, I was super excited to meet Dolly. She reached out to me about 6 years ago, looking for someone to tell her story. And as she began to reveal her experiences, I realized very early on that she was different from a lot of the people I've interviewed who do use regressive hypnosis sometimes, who do have a lot of fear and a lot of missing time. Dolly's story is easily the most extensive account of contact that I've ever had the privilege to research and honestly even read about. So her case is really, really extensive. And it was a real joy for me because much of what she says, I have heard before from other people, but it was very much piecemeal, very much through the lens of fear, very much sort of, I don't know, not cohesive. But Dolly's has a continuous narrative, and it was just really amazing to have her, answer many of the questions I have, surrounding this phenomena. And she was able to really confirm what I've pretty much suspected all along, that the ETs are not here to take over or hurt us or anything like that. Their missions are one of healing, of guiding, of waking people up, of putting us on the right path in terms of treating our planet and ourselves. So yeah, she really wanted to tell her story, and I was really honored that she chose me. And we put together this book with hundreds of hours of interviews, and finally we got it all together. It was quite one of the most difficult books really I've ever written, because her story is so extensive. And each time we talked, I would learn something new. But we did put it out just a few months ago in May, and it took off. In fact, I was amazed and delighted to see that it hit the #1 spot on Amazon in the UFO category. Yeah, so it's a #1
That's
UFO
wonderful.
bestseller. Super
Dolly,
excited.
how did Dolly, how do you feel about going public now with your story?
Well, I had prepared for it a couple of years before I met Preston. I had started talking about it with my contacts. And basically the reason is that there's so much disinformation out here, and people are not being told the truth. And y'all's understanding of technology and what really science is all about is dropping dramatically, and you're being lied to about a lot of things. And it upset me a lot. And in face of what we have coming at us, I decided that I was going to open my mouth and start talking. And so they pretty much briefed me on what to expect, what was going to happen to me, what could happen to me as a result. They would back me up and protect me during this process. And when it was time, I went. And so in 2016, I contacted Preston after I had been looking for about 6 months. I couldn't find anyone. And they finally said, well, we know somebody. We want you to contact him. And they gave me his name and told me he was on YouTube. Look him up. And I did. And I saw I found his very first video on YouTube. It was way back, and he was talking about healing. And I listened to it, and I thought, oh my God, this is it. This is the right person.
So the ETs recommended him?
Yes, absolutely.
That's great. See
Yeah,
that, Preston?
I know who he is.
You're known throughout the universe.
Yeah, boy, when I heard that was thrilling. I mean, like, wow. I've suspected the ETs have known about me for a while. I've had indications of it. So
Yeah,
but this was definite confirmation.
Yeah, it's
Really
great.
cool.
Yeah.
Dolly, you were taken at as a 2-year-old. First, how is it possible to remember anything from when you were 2 years old, and what happened on your first experience?
Well, actually, I remember all the way back to almost 3 weeks after I was born.
Wow.
God.
But my first real memory is 10 months. I was already walking and talking by then, and I was laying in my crib in Miami. We had just moved to Miami. My dad was transferred from Georgia, and we were in an apartment building on Bayfront in Miami, and we had those old level door blinds, and all of a sudden this big bright light lit up the room. I was supposed to be sleeping. It was midday, and I was staring at it, and the next thing I know, I'm floating up in my crib. And it was very disconcerting. I'm 10 months old, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And by the time I reached the top of the rails, I freaked, because I thought, oh my God, now I'm really panicking. Something's bad happening to me. And I tried to flip over, and I tried to pull myself down, and I could not. That's the last memory of it. But it was such a strong memory, and it was, I think, so traumatic, it stayed in my mind. I have an eidetic memory, and that's probably one of the reasons that I do remember. My first conscious memory after that was when I was 2 years old. One day somebody visited me in my room. I was supposed to be napping again. My mom was heavily pregnant with my brother, and they took me. And it's spotty, this memory. It comes in snatches. But I remember being told that if I was a good girl and I played nice with them, because I could be very feisty at that age, I would get a red balloon. And when they dropped me off outside of Utotem. It's about 6 miles from our house. Now, mind you, I'm in nothing but underwear, okay?
Oh, God.
Barefoot, everything. And they dropped me off in front of this totem. I was behind, well, they dropped down behind it and they told me to walk around to the front and go in. And I did. I couldn't push the door. It was too heavy for me. And I'm banging on it, screaming, let me in, let me in. And the guy saw me, 2 years old, banging on the door. And he didn't see anybody. He let me in. I start crying because I want my balloon, okay? And he called the cops. Now, while all this is going on with me, my mother had woken up, found out I was not in a locked house. She called the police. She called my dad. They came home. For 2 hours, they looked for me, 2. They had police everywhere searching. They put her in a car. I was pregnant. They finally got the call that I was at the totem, and they showed up. My mother went running in, and by this time, I'm crying and freaking out like, you people are not nice to me at all.
Where's my balloon?
My balloon, And she's trying to get me to tell her what happened, but I was so weirded out that I couldn't make sense to her. 2 years old, I'm scrambling to tell them everything. And they took me home. All the locks got changed. All the windows got changed. We got a guard dog that used to be a police dog. Her name was Heidi. She's a German Shepherd. And it went from there. I was contacted and taken multiple times in my lifetime after that in different scenarios. And I would remember pieces of it, but not the whole thing. It wasn't in a long loop for me. By the time I got to be 14, I was freaking out thinking either I'm insane or it's real. And I had to prove it. And so I started making up my mind. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to prove that I'm not crazy. I had a mother who did not like the subject, did not like to see me doing all the weird things that I did because I was already psychic, telekinetic. I could levitate. I did things in the house that scared everybody all the time. She was not okay about it. And so I started looking every night. I was taking astronomy lessons and I would sit and look at the night skies all the time. I only slept about 2 hours a day. And one night, 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm still out there. And my dad said, go to bed. It's a school night. I went in the house and put my scope in its pack. I have a box for it. And got my jammies on. And I'm sitting on the edge of my bed by my windows. And by this time, I'm living in the Everglades. Okay. And we had these huge jalousied windows that you could, see out pretty good. I could crawl out them if I wanted to. And I was looking up at the night sky because I wasn't done. I wanted to see Orion. Orion was up. I love that constellation. And I start seeing more than one star, and it turned out to be hundreds of them. And I'm like, what the hell? And it hit me. This is it. They all paired off into twos, and they started going in different directions, east, west, north, and south. 2 of them came down over our area. One went toward the east, which was where Dadeland and Kendall is in Miami. And then the other one came over us in the Glades. And I watched it change in color as it came down. I saw that it became metallic. It came down over the trees in the backyard, and everything started whipping around. No sound, just whipping trees. And it was bobbing and swaying. And it was metallic, very, very shiny metallic. And I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, okay, remember. Don't forget this. You're going to hang on to this memory. And I'm studying the craft. And I get to the ports, and in each port is a being staring dead at me. I was like, nope, we're done. And I turned, I was going to dive under my bed. And poof, the room turned blue-white, and this last memory I had.
That was when you were 14?
14, yeah. I woke up on the floor of my room hours later, pissed off that it happened to me again. What the hell? And I started crying. I was so mad. I was rocking mad. And I could hear my mother in the kitchen getting breakfast for my dad. It's 4:30 in the morning. It was a school day, so I got up and took a shower, got my clothes on. And as I was getting in the shower, I realized these are not my jammies. I'm not wearing my jammies. And they're on backwards and inside out. And what the hell? Okay. I got cleaned up, got dressed. I went in the kitchen. Now I know I got to talk about this. I cannot not talk about this. I was possessed with this. And my mother, who does not like to hear this stuff, I sat in the kitchen. She said, make coffee. Paul Harvey was on the radio. She listened to the radio every day. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, how the hell do I tell this woman? So I start asking her questions. Mom, did you guys see anything last night? Did you hear anything? See lights? Was the wind blowing? Anything? And she turned around and she said, what are you talking about? And I said, UFOs. And she went, shut up. No, you dreaming. So I sat there dejected. I drank my first cup of coffee. That's my absolute memory, my first cup of coffee ever. And I was still mulling over, how the hell am I going to get her to listen to me? The radio's on, and suddenly the news comes on, and the announcer, first thing out of his mouth, 2 Dadeland police officers saw UFOs last night and described it perfectly.
What year was that?
1973, January.
Hang on just a second, real
Okay.
quick. Dolly, can you possibly turn the volume down on your laptop
Sure.
just slightly? Because I think that's where it's coming from. Is we're getting kind of a roar every once in a while.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I minimized you so I can do this. Hold on a second. Sound. Gotta find it. Here it is. Oh, that's Wi-Fi. Hold on. There it is. Sound. And I want to take it down to here. Hopefully that will help. Okay. I need to put you back up. Hold on.
Okay.
There you are. I'm going to maximize the screen again.
Yep.
Hold on. Then I got to find the maximize button. I think that's it. Yay. Okay. I'm back.
Okay.
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 Right.
And I'm
Is that
not here.
better?
I'm not hearing it now. So I think
Okay.
that was it. All right. So
All right.
sorry to interrupt, but
That's
go ahead.
okay.
You guys go ahead.
Yeah. So Dolly, why would they take such a young child? I mean, they started taking you when you were just a baby. Why are they interested in somebody so young?
I was going to school with them when I was younger. I didn't remember it until after I woke up. That day, the rest of that day was pretty traumatic for me. I'll tell you about it in a few minutes. But
Okay.
I was going to school with them. They were taking me to their home world and training me and educating me. And the reason being is I'm a hybrid. I am part of them. One of the Grays, tall Grays, is actually related to me. I'm related to her. And this was planned. I'm not the only one, just so you know. There are thousands of us on this planet right now who are hybrid, who are trained.
Yeah, this is normal for contactees. They're generally contacted very early on, age 2, 4, 5, I think is probably the latest.
Yeah.
And also I would jump in here and say that in terms of Dolly remembering stuff all the way down to, age 1, that's also fairly common among contactees. Many of them do have eidetic memories. I hear that again and again.
And it's generational as well, isn't it? Oftentimes
Yes.
Yeah.
My father was a contactee. We think my mother may have been too, but she was hurt. The Army did something to her that was very bad, and it was not good, and it changed her somewhat. And she, throughout my lifetime, disassociated a lot of stuff. So.
Did she ever come to accept this? Your experiences?
In weird sort of ways she did, but she was very quiet about it. Toward the end of her life, she and I had a couple of conversations, but she never really admitted that that she was okay with it. My mother didn't know how to handle me at all. And the way I was born is she was totally dead asleep. Okay, it was an emergency, and I was born under seriously weird circumstances. I had a twin that was missing, and it was not a good situation. And when I was born, I didn't look like her kid. Okay, I had black hair and I had pointed ears.
Oh, whole
I'm not kidding. I had actually pointed. I can prove it. I had pointed ears, and it all fell out when I was about a month and a half old, and it came in snowball white. And
really.
Yeah, I was like Children of the Corn, and she just never ever really,
How about your dad?
My dad had the same issues I did. My father had pointed ears when he was born. My dad's a redhead. I eventually turned totally red. When I went through puberty, I became a redhead, and I was a redhead until 40 something, and then I turned white again. My dad's family is really psychic. We got all that going on. We got the genetics for it and all that. So, yeah.
How do they communicate with you? Is it telepathy or?
Yes, it's telepathic. They can speak. The Grays, the tall Grays, speak better than the rest of them. The shorter Grays, not so much. Their vocal boxes aren't as big enough, really, for you to hear them without them squeaking at you. They click. The medium-sized grays click. They have a clicking language, like the Inuit and the African tribes who click when they speak. Yeah. And the grays do have an actual language.
Now, are the smaller ones AI
Yes,
beings?
the smallest grays under 3 feet are AI. They're intelligent. They can learn. They're self-guiding, but they don't make command decisions at all. They do what they're told to do, but in a situation, they can make a decision, that way.
And they can be turned.
That was one of the questions that I was really wondering about, because Whitley Strieber had talked about that, seeing small AI that they would actually turn off and stack up like cordwood. And Dolly described the same type of thing. This really helped clarify for me, because some people say, oh, these ETs have no emotions. And others say, well, no, they're very emotional and very loving. The little AI don't have emotions like we do. The taller, mid-sized grays and the tall grays do.
What I found fascinating, Dolly, is that the ship itself seems to be partially biological and an intelligent being. Can you talk about that a bit?
It is. Their craft are biologically ready to be indwelt by a dimensional being. All of their craft are piloted that way by dimensional beings. It's a cooperation between two beings. One is interdimensional, and he indwells it and actually becomes his body. It becomes him or her, whichever is indwelling it, whichever. And the one that indwells the craft that I fly, he has a really long name, and I pulled a piece of it out so I could call him that without being able to say it properly. So he's Talara, and it's a part of his name. It's complicated. And he is my constant contact. I'm always in contact with Talara all the time. And they run every single ship or craft that is ET is indwelt by a being, an interdimensional being. That's how they travel, is interdimensionally. They use light technology that we don't have yet. And they can move huge spaces around the universe by going interdimensionally that way, through light gates.
Okay. You said that they took you to a school. Where was the school? Is there a particular planet?
It was in the Orion cluster, and Preston knows which star to point to. It's where Orion's belt is. Where the third star is. If you go straight south down, there's another star that is actually called Orion. At one of the in the Orion cluster, and it's that star system right there where they're from. That's the tall grays homeworld is in that cluster.
Have they ever taken you to Jupiter? Or any of the?
They did take me to Jupiter when I was 14. That was the very first planet I ever really got taken to and shown anything.
You were actually taught how to drive the craft too, weren't you?
Yes, it took when I was decided that I wanted to fly when I was 14. That trip, that one where I told you I passed out and couldn't remember. Well, I eventually did remember that day. I worked on it till I came conscious of it, and I remembered the whole thing. And that is, I have a liaison. Her name is Mama. I've known her since I was 5. She's a tall gray. She's 6'2". She's over 800 years old, and she's still living. She is alive. And she was my liaison. She was like my temporary mom when I was away from my mother here. She took care of me, and she was constantly with me when I was with them. She never left me. And Talata is the craft that I flew upon. And it was decided that since I knew them so well, because they were ferrying me back and forth to schools and stuff like that, that he would be the one to teach me how to fly. And so that's the craft I flew. And I guess I did well enough. They let me take over. I'm pilot number 1 for that craft.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Dolly, how do you, with all these experiences, how do you even how could you even socialize with normal people?
I didn't. I was very isolated. Yeah, I had a few close friends, but I didn't spend a lot of time with them either. And one of my best friend was also a contactee. I guess she became one because of associating with me, or maybe it was because we were around each other all the time. But she's passed away now. She had cancer really, really bad. Her sister remembers it though. Her sister remembers hearing all the stories of her telling her all the stuff that was going on. Wow. And there's a few people out where I lived out in the Glades that are contactees that I know of to this day. And they just don't talk about it. One of them is an actual pilot. What?
What do they think about you talking about it?
Everybody's very, very calm about it. One of my friends says, "Oh, Dolly, here we go," and I'm ever evolving Dolly to him, and so yeah, they're watching me. They know it's a hard subject to come out with. You're taking a huge chance of being ostracized by everybody, even your family, and and that has happened to me somewhat. I have some problems with that right now, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I've had many contactees tell me that they have not even told their spouse or any of their family members. And many of them have lost friends over this. Some of them because they feel like the person is crazy, or other times a UFO will show up and they're just not ready to deal with that. And if you hang around Dolly or any contactee, at some point you will have an experience yourself. So this is something that does, Dolly has a lot of corroborating witnesses to her encounters.
How about you and
all her friends?
How about you when you've been with Dolly? Have you had any experiences?
Oh, yeah. I sure have, yeah. I've seen the UFOs, and contactees as a rule are very psychic. So I've had a lot of fun when Dolly has, psychic events occurring as well. She will, when I was interviewing her, she would start answering the questions before I could even ask them.
Oh, that's disconcerting.
Oh, I love it. It's fun.
Are there people in the government interested in Dolly's story?
Oh, yeah.
Finding out what she's about?
Yeah. Dolly's talks about that. We wrote about that in the book. As a rule, pretty much a lot of contactees, especially ones who have extensive contact, are surveilled by the government folks. I had one lady, she had her hypnosis tapes stolen. People broke into her house and that's all they took. Another guy in upstate New York, he had his house broken into. No money was stolen, nothing valuable, just his contact notes. So Dolly has dealt with this from a very early age. And in fact, last year I met Dolly face to face for the first time at the MegaCon, UFO Con in Laughlin. We rented a little Airbnb and we were driving back from the conference. And I'm like, Dolly, I think someone's following us.
Oh, God.
She's like, really? And I said, yeah. And it was a little Airbnb off several little roads. And we were followed all the way to it, pulled into the driveway, got into the house, and this car pulls up and parks, blocking the driveway. I'm like, Dolly, look. This is Preston.
Oh, wow.
I told you, see, this is what I live with daily.
Wow.
Yeah, Dolly can tell all about these government folks, which are harassing.
Dolly, could Dolly have telekinetically lifted the car out of the driveway, show them that what you do?
Would try, yeah. Yeah, he was still there that morning, and he said, "What are we going to do?" And I said, "Just back out. He'll pull down and let us out, and then he'll follow us." And he did. And it was like, dude. Yeah, I've only had one real serious incident with that. When I was living in Panama City, they got nosy and they climbed the roof to our condo. It was a townhouse. My daughter owns it. And he got up onto the roof where my room was, and Dolly said, "Nope," and he knocked him off, and then he emptied their car. And it was a very bad day for them. They had 6 agents out there, they had a big wrecker, and it was noisy and a mess. So they get reminded every now and then to leave me alone, which is important. They give me distance because they know that Toa will react to them. And
Oh, it's interesting.
What does she do with them? I mean, does she appear to them or freak them out?
No, every now and then I bring them cookies and Sprite. I'll make cookies for them. I'll take them out to the car and they'll crack the window and say, "Look, cookies!" And I'll eat one in front of them so they know that they're not poison.
Right.
Right.
A lot of times they'll lower the window and take the cookies and shut the window back up. When they do, I can see all the cameras and all the sound equipment in there and everything. It's hysterical. Yeah.
Boy, that's something. So you mentioned that the place where you were educated in the school was in the Orion belt, a planet in one of those related to one of those stars. Is that where the Greys are from?
One of the ethnicities of them, the tall Greys are mostly from that cluster. Zeta Reticuli, the medium-sized Greys are, and there's a smaller Grey that's sort of like troll-sized. They're kind of bluish in color, come from Zeta Reticuli as well. And then there's another a star pattern. I'm not. I don't. It's called Delphi, and there's some grays out there as well. You know. So
Isn't Zeta Reticuli where Betty Hill drew the map?
yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
You
are
realize that all of those are in our galaxy.
Right.
Okay, I want to make a point. Our galaxy is huge, and there are many, 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 many systems in our galaxy. And life is very plentiful in our galaxy. It's huge and it's plentiful. And most of the beings that come and have anything to do with us are from our galaxy. There are a couple outside our galaxy, but not that many. It's only one or two. And they're highly involved beings, and they kind of just watch everybody, you know, even them. So,
have they given you warnings about climate change?
I have specific data and knowledge of what's about to happen to this planet. Yes, and it has nothing to do with climate change.
Oh,
it has to
really?
do with our planet is going through a period of every 12,000 years, and there's a 12,000 year cycle, a 6,000 year cycle, and a 4,000 year cycle. Our planet is hurt. Our whole system is hurt. We didn't live here originally. We were all on Mars, okay? And our system was invaded by a giant rogue planet with a bunch of asteroids following it. And it came and it bashed into us. It totally destroyed Mars. It killed it. It threw us into about the same orbit space as Mars was in, but it blew the middle of our core. In other words, we have bulges in our core because of it.
Right.
The planet tilts, okay? And it wobbles. And so there's a 6,000 year cycle where our planet, the wobble is so bad that we will flop over. It drops down and then it'll pull back up. That's every 6,000 years, okay?
That sounds awful.
Water event or the Noah event. We got that coming up. We got another cycle, 12,000 year cycle, where our sun is starting to emit higher and higher and higher amounts of coronal mass ejection. And we're changing our poles. Our entire system is changing our poles. The entire galaxy is going through a change because there's an electromagnetic current sheet sluicing through our galaxy, and it's triggering everybody. It's every 12,000 years. So while our magnetosphere is going down, we're vulnerable to those coronal mass ejections. And one of them is going to, within the next few years, send us all back to the Stone Age. It's going to kill our grids all over the world at the same time. The first shot across our bow was in 1859. It was the Carrington event. We had just started wiring things for telegraph, and it burned them all up worldwide. And it was a warning to everybody. Start paying attention. Stuff's coming. So yeah, we have stuff coming. ET plans to rescue us. We have to make it through these events, though, because they're not here right now. About a year and a half ago, they bugged out. They can't fly here. That's why I'm grounded right now. I can't fly. They can't be here for all of this. Their technology is affected by it as well.
Oh,
Plus,
really?
they're in the same situation in the galaxy as we are. They have a current sheet coming through, and they have to take care of themselves.
Do they have any suggestions on how we? Do they have any suggestions on how we survive this? Or
learn to go off grid. Learn to live like the Flintstones. You know, save food. Learn how to grow stuff. You're going back down the grid. It's going to, poof. You won't have any support that you think you have. If you live in a house that's electrified, get out. It will burn to the ground when this happens. You need to pull wire and whatever. When the time comes, I'm going to start warning everybody. It's time. You need to get away from your electrical appliances, everything. Just get rid of it. Learn to live off grid already now. But at the same time, we have another problem. The governments of the world, the elite 1%, have known for 80 years that this was going to happen. They've known.
Jeez.
Okay. All these underground places that they've built, all these seed depositories that they've built, all this infrastructure that they have in place is only for them.
Wow.
1%. And we are in their way. Okay. And they're about to do some damage to us, and they already started. Okay. Because we will fight them for it once the grid goes down. If you're hungry and you've got nowhere to live, you're going to go for that. And they don't want you to have guns. They don't want your health. They don't want anything. They don't want you to be a bother to them. So that's what's happening.
Sounds great.
Governments have not had our best interests in mind for a very long time.
Well, that's
that's society
obvious.
as it stands now is not sustainable.
Right.
So ultimately, this is really good news.
Yeah.
Contactees, as a general rule, have gotten this message. It's been the same message for well, since 1950, when contact really started becoming much more common.
I want to say something. I'm not the only one that's saying this, okay? I mean, I'm a contactee, but there are hardcore scientists who are already saying it, that are putting the information out there. Some of them are getting shot down by the government and shut up, but there are a few that are still speaking, and they will not shut up until, and they're talking about it. One of them is Ben from Suspicious Observers. He was a lawyer. He is a genius, and he taught himself astrophysics and astronomy, and he knows what he's talking about. Then there is a bona fide astronomer who's talking about it, and he does Sky Scholar on YouTube. Look him up, Dr. Robitaille. He's talking about it. There are 2 scientists at NASA who we will not name, and one just died suspiciously. So we have to be careful how we talk about them, who are blowing the whistle on this, okay? So, and you're just constantly lied to by the government. Don't believe a word they say. Disclosure to me is a big fat joke because they've known. And if you knew what they know and knew that they were lying about it all this time, we would attack them, and they don't want that. So they're not going to tell you the truth, ever.
Well, we have mango trees. When we're out of food, we have mangoes, we have papaya. That's about it.
Okay, learn to garden. Do container gardens. Okay, get seeds. Start buying that stuff now. You need a lot of food too, because the governments are trying to starve us out now. You realize that, right? Mm-hmm. We're about to have world famine in the next 3 months to 6 months. You will see nothing on the shelves in the stores. I guarantee you, it's coming. It's already starting to happen. They've taken all our resources and they're feathering their nests underground right now. All our infrastructure is going to them, not us. It's serious. Just open your eyes, look around, you'll see it happening.
How are you preparing for this?
I live out in the middle of nowhere. I'm in one of the safe zones. I'm off grid, and I garden and am gardening. I'm building infrastructure right now for myself for no electricity, nothing. Okay. And I have to hang on. I have to survive this until they can come back and pick me up so we can pick everybody else up. There will come a day after all this happens that ET can fly back to us, and they're going to land en masse around this planet onto the ground. You'll see them everywhere. We're going to open the doors and say, get on now, because this is not the end of what's coming. We have bigger stuff right behind this, and the planet's going to be unlivable, and we're going to get everybody off.
Where are they going to take everybody?
There are 3 planets that they have ready for us and waiting. And you will be given the startups and everything you need to survive. And you'll be trained before you get there. Okay? And they have a clear message. Wake up. Use your innate psychic abilities. Stop listening to what the governments say. Turn off all negativity and learn to use your psychic abilities. Learn to use them. You'll hear them if you do. Russell Targ was a CIA operative, okay? And he was a very psychic. He's one of the most psychic people the government ever had. And he left a message for us in a bottle. And it is a program you can go to on the internet. It's called ESP Trainer.
I've got it. I've got it.
That's Russell Targ, honey. Learn how to use it. Spread it through your family. If you have small children, let them be psychic. Do not disbelieve anything they say. Let them use their abilities because they're on. Let them keep turning it on. They will tell you, okay? And they'll help you bring it back to yourself.
Dolly, in the past, have they ever given you the option of leaving the planet and going with them?
Yes. And I said no. I'm a hybrid, but I'm human, okay? I'm here too. And how do I put this? I can't, if all my belief, all my understanding about life and what it means that y'all are as precious to me as myself. And I can't handle the idea of nobody not knowing the truth. It's very important to me that y'all do. I came here specifically for this, okay, to tell the truth. You need to hear it.
Yeah. So are there
many people are being taken off planet? I talked to a contactee in Maine who got that message. They gave her a bunch of messages, talked exactly what Dolly's saying about the importance of increasing our psychic abilities, warning her about upcoming changes with our environment, and said flat out, if people go missing from this planet, it's being done by us for the universal good. There are a lot of people being taken off right now, and not only people, but plants and animals. Dolly's been on these big mother ships, which are basically animal husbandry centers and arboretums. this was one of her missions throughout the 1970s. She was very active in pulling off species that were going extinct.
Huh.
So they're doing their best to, make sure
You have dogs and cats? Are there dogs and cats? Yes,
if you have dogs and cats, when we come back to get you, you get to bring in dogs and cats. They love them.
Yeah.
So Dolly, is their civilization much more ancient than ours? Does it go back how long?
The amount of time that I was taught about is infinitesimal compared to what they've lived. I know 280 million years of history of our system alone. They are eons beyond that. They have evolved to the point where they came in contact with interdimensional beings and were sharing technology with them and with each other. They had evolved to the point where they can now work together interdimensionally. We're not there yet. We were supposed to be on our way, and for some reason we didn't do it yet. They're not going to forsake us because of that, but yeah.
Well, hey, real quick, can circle back around to people leaving the planet, because just maybe it's a synchronicity or whatever, but just this past week, I certainly had listened to a podcast that was not no metaphysical connections or whatever. They actually brought up the Christian belief of the rapture came up this past week. Are there people missing? Are there people missing from the planet in general? They couldn't cite that, but it's interesting that you brought up that maybe people have already left, and there actually was, just this past week, I heard somebody say, I don't know, but I don't think everybody's still here. But go ahead. All right.
Well, Dolly, if you're off the grid, how are we doing Zoom? I mean, do you have electricity in your house?
Right. No. Well, yes. Right now, we've got 2 years before we go down. Okay. So I'm hanging in there with the grid to spread my message as much as possible. But there's going to come a day where you won't see me anymore, hear from me, because I will pull the plug, and it will be necessary. Otherwise, we won't make it. I'm thinking about building a log cabin with nothing in it but, a house. And I might have, composting toilets in it. I might try to figure out how to do running water, but that's it. No electricity. And where I'm living now, the house that I'm in now, will totally be gutted and taken down because it will burn. And I don't want that in my area. I don't want that kind of fire. There's going to be enough. The skies, when this happens, the skies are going to turn red. You're going to see electrical fire everywhere. Everything is going to burn and explode and all kinds of stuff. It's going to be an unhealthy place to be if you're not prepared.
Wow.
Yeah, doesn't sound like.
Maybe we better move, Rob. Preston, what steps have you taken?
Yeah, the same thing. I moved out of LA. I think it's a good idea to get out of major cities, first of all. In the process of saving a lot of food. I don't want to starve to death. But, I remember past lives, honest to God, where that has happened. We can only do what we can. And I don't want this to be a doom and gloom thing for people, because the fact is we are immortal beings. And this is another real reason for us to elevate our psychic abilities, start having out-of-body experiences, and recognize that we are immortal and that death is not the end. It doesn't exist. It's a lie. So it's not going to be, even if you have to leave this planet and, get a new body, that's going to be just fine. But I can tell you with absolute confidence that the contactees I've talked to are often getting this message of the sky filling with UFOs, landing, people being ushered aboard. So we have friends in high places. This should be a celebratory event. We've lived in a state of basic slavery for thousands of years, for millennia. That is not, like I said, sustainable. So this is awesome, wonderful news. As scary as it might sound, it's very important that we just enjoy each day, prepare as much as we can, and wait for the show and recognize that, this is going to be a really bright future for us. It's going to be really wonderful.
What's interesting about this, Rob, Kathy said, one day we're going to wake up and we're going to move.
Right. Yeah.
We just went to Casadega, and we know one of the psychics there and get readings from her. And this is something she said.
It's a spiritualist community.
Yeah, it's a spiritualist community.
That's awesome. She's right. You are going to move. Yeah.
So on the kind of a bigger picture, do the Greys have enemies? Do they get along with other beings in the universe? What's that situation?
Okay. Y'all have been lied to the point that it's real hard to understand. And I'm going to give you the simplest, quickest way to understand this.
Okay.
When you're an evolved being, you leave behind negativity and anger and hate. You're nothing but love. Okay. And these are very positive beings. They mean for us to survive. They mean for us to be well. We're related to them. We are part of their genome. We are them, they are us, and we are all one, okay, universally. Any civilization that's technologically that advanced is not going to be an enemy of anybody. That's not how when you evolve, you mature. There's called responsible maturity in evolution, and that's where they went. You can't contact an interdimensional being without having that paradigm in your existence, because interdimensional beings absolutely, without beyond the shadow of a doubt, have totally left the physical, and they don't need that going on. They're not mentally angry beings. They're all love and light. Okay, the light technology that they use does not include hate. It does not include anger. It does not include violence, war, nothing, none of that. Okay.
But what about the other?
The problem, not them.
Yeah, but what about the other beings like the Lizzies? They don't seem that friendly.
You mean like reptilians?
Right.
They're from here. Do you know that?
Okay.
They're from here. That makes sense.
I read that in your book. That they're
Yeah. So same thing. They're evolving like we are.
Yeah.
And they got issues just like we do.
This is an important point, which I just want to underline real quick, because there is a lot of fear surrounding this subject. And there are people who are traumatized and having nightmares and feel that this is bad for them. And I really had to take a step back and look at exactly what is happening to people who are having contact. And the scariest thing I found is the physical exam. People don't often like this, and they label this experience as unpleasant or even evil. I can tell you that there are virtually zero cases of what I would call outright sadism or torture or intentionally harming people. It's just not there. They are not here to hurt us or take over. There is a narrative being put forth by the media, by our own governments, of an alien threat. There is no alien threat. It's the threat is to their power structure and their control over us. That's the alien threat. There are MILABs, military abductions, where they are faking evil aliens. So there are actual accounts out there which are negative, but it's not the ETs. People really need to recognize the ET agenda is to wake people up psychically, to warn us that our path is not sustainable, and to heal us. Healing. This is one of the books I wrote, 300 cases from every major investigator out there of people being healed. The evidence is there if you're willing to throw away your misconceptions, step away from fear, don't believe the media or the lying government. The truth is, ETs are our friends. They're here to help us. They're very advanced spiritually and technologically.
Well, also, the last time you all were going to appear, Dolly was in the hospital with COVID, right?
Yeah.
Now, did they cure you of COVID?
I cured myself. I just needed to stay there for a couple of days. So I had oxygen. I needed oxygen at that point. I've never taken the shots. I refuse. I won't take them. And I've had COVID. I had COVID when it first came out, and I survived that one on my own. It was the worst one of the three. Then I had it again, the really light version, and then this version, the BA5 one. That one was a little tough. That one got me all around, but I came through it on my own. I did fine. I healed myself. I have no scar in my lungs, nothing from it, and I'm really okay.
Dolly, you've worked as an intermediary, haven't you, between the Greys and the people who were taken aboard and for their first? Talk about that a little bit. That's interesting.
One of the things that I do because I fly is I help them go to pick people up to be examined. The reason this is important is while our magnetosphere is going down, it's been 80 years like this, 100 years, where we get incoming gamma that is more intense than we've ever had before. If you notice, there's more cancer, there's more autoimmune, there's more everything, heart problems, mental problems, all of it across the board. we have more disease now or physical ailments than ever. And it's because our DNA is being derazed by the gamma. It absolutely will take you apart. We know this is positively true because NASA proved it. They have 2 identical twin astronauts. They sent one up for a year. He came back. He no longer matched his brother. They were not identical anymore.
Wow.
Okay. Now they're watching his DNA repair itself, but he's still not 100% a match to his brother anymore. That's serious. That's happening to all of us. ET knows this. It happens to them when they're in space. They've been taking us aboard and helping us heal. They have an accelerated way to make your DNA repair itself. And if you're that far gone, they will give you the cure to it. They're holding us up while we go through this so that we make it to the other side and we can come with them. That's why you're not abducted, you're contacted. Okay? Abduction is a scary word that the governments here want you to believe. You're contacted, you're watched, you're guided, you're cared for. This is what they're doing. They're heavily involved with us for the last 80 years because of what's coming. You're being watched over. And the governments here want you to believe in hate, death. They want you to believe that you're being abducted. They want you to fear everything. We are taught, no, we get Halloween. Look what you do. You go to houses where you're scared to death. What is wrong with that? I'm a nurse, okay? And every time, you're a nurse, and I have had patients attack me, spit on me, hit me, yell at me, scream at me because they don't understand what's going on. And they're afraid, terrified that they think that I'm going to hurt them. That's just here. Imagine how you feel when you're contacted by them and you really don't know what's going on. That's why they cover your memory. That's why they give you relief from it and don't let you remember everything because they want you to be well and they're willing to do anything. While I'm on board and I'm contacting you and bringing the craft to pick you up and we bring you on board, I speak to everybody. I sit down with y'all. I talk you through it. I explain why this isn't going to be afraid. I tell you the truth about it. I'll walk you through the ship. I'll let you sit in my seat. Okay. I'll show you everything. I'll give you anything you want while you're on board. I will make you as happy as possible while they check you physically to make sure you're okay. We've even healed broken bones. We've cured every kind of disease you could possibly imagine if your karma allows it. Now we have karma. There's some karma we can't touch, but they're psychic. They're interdimensional beings and they know which is which. Okay. I've seen people miraculously cured. We had one person who literally couldn't walk. They had just hurt their back and we fixed it, okay? So that they could walk it. They had a gradual ability to get back up on their feet, okay? Miraculous.
Right.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, given all of the divisiveness in the world now, how is any of this going to be healed? You know?
It's not. That's the problem. That's why you have to wake up. Your innate psychic ability is going to open your eyes and you're going to hear the truth. The universe is very chatty, okay? The universe is a mind all of its own, okay? It's like God. It is God in a way. Yeah. And you can hear it talking and it doesn't lie and it tells you the truth. And your intuition will go up 1,000%. So when somebody's lying to you, you can look at them and go,
yeah.
Okay. No, thank you. Okay. And then when ET starts talking to you, you can hear them and you can hear that they're telling you the truth. They don't lie to one another. When you're that wide open psychic, all you can hear is the truth. You know, you can't hide what's in your mind at all. It's a room and you walk into it, you go, hey, you know?
Yeah, this is why the agenda to wake us up is so important. Can you imagine how humanity would change if we were all telepathic? God. Greed and corruption would fall away instantly.
Everything would change.
Yeah. The true sense of what love really is also important where this is concerned, because people love one another here, but it's not sustainable love. You don't understand what it really means until you wake up psychically. Okay. A lot of divorce, a lot of sudden hate by people. You know, I loved you 5 minutes ago, but now I hate you. Yeah. That kind of thing that doesn't exist when your psychic ability awakens. You truly understand what love is. And love teaches everything. Okay. It teaches you how to be part of everybody. Your empathy levels will jump. You will see things as they truly are. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah. You know,
Dolly, the ship you go on and that you fly, how large is this? And do they have a larger ship that this little one goes into?
Yeah.
Like
It's pretty big. He's about somewhere between 150 and 200 feet in diameter. It's huge.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
He can expand and contract within those
Wow.
parameters. He can go a little over 250, maybe 300 feet if he
Wow.
expands out.
Yeah.
He can get taller, bigger, fatter. He can do all kinds of stuff. He can change his light pattern. He's like a cuttlefish. He can change his light pattern so that he's up in the sky and you can't see him because he's mirroring everything. You know, he can become anything he wants to in your eyes,
Wow.
sight-wise, because of that ability. There are smaller craft. You remember Bob Lazar? You remember the one that he drew?
Right.
They call it the sports model. Well, that is a Tic Tac, and that's what the Tic Tacs are. And they come in, and they're two-seaters, I call them. They have one level where you can put some pallets down, but there's no sustainable anything on board that craft. It's just to move people back and forth, one at a time or two at a time. They'll come in, they'll grab you, and they'll take you to a bigger craft like Talada. Talada is the next size up. Then they have craft that are like motherships, where thousands of Taladas will, park with, and they have services, they have food, they have, places where you can sleep, enjoy entertainment, talk.
Is that what they're going to use when they take people off Earth?
When they take you off Earth, you go to a ship like Talada, unless you need surgery of any kind, and then they'll take you to a mothership. Okay, they'll transport you that fast. They'll light gate you to it, so there's no time involved. Then there are other sizes that are even bigger than that. They keep getting bigger, 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 and then they have what's called it's like a planetoid. It's like a Dyson sphere that you would describe, only it's not surrounding a star. It's an actual planetoid, and it has different levels, different things. It's like a real planet. They have water, they have forests, they have everything you can think of, and they transport animals to other worlds. They do all kinds of things. I mean, it's a planetoid.
Are they inside or are they inside that planetoid, or are they on the outside of it?
There's areas outside of it. They have a small atmosphere on them where you can go out, but you still have to be protected in that environment. And then it's mostly inside. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. That's interesting. What do they eat? I mean, if they're out, that's what, I have 1,000 questions, but that's
I know. What do you eat?
Okay. They're all beings, including animals. Everything that has DNA is related to one another. We're all related. Okay. They have the same DNA we do. They're humanoid. They have human DNA like we do. We just dye them out differently. They look a little different because they evolved to look differently from us. Just like on our planet, we have people with different ethnicities. They're darker, lighter, have different hair types, features, that kind of thing. They do the same thing that we do. They dye them out differently, but we can breed back and forth with them. Everybody's bipedal. Everybody's eats food. Everybody pees, goes poo. Everybody's reproductive.
That's good to know.
Yeah, they can hear, they can smell, they can drink, all of that. They're like us. They just look differently. The tall grays are meat eaters, mostly. They are carnivores. If one was to smile at you, you might be taken aback a little bit. I was the first time. Mama grinned at me. I'm staring at her mouth. She has more teeth than I do, and they're pointed as hell. And I was like, how come I don't have teeth like that? I was kind of jealous, okay? She says, you don't eat all meat. I do. And I was like, oh, okay. And I said, what kind of meat do you eat? And she said, well, we eat meat that's transported to us from our world. And they also eat meat that you can construct. It's sort of like we have the ability to create meat here. Did you know that? We use recombinant DNA, and we can actually build meat byproducts and stuff like that. Protein.
And that's what they do?
Sometimes when they're on board, it is a way that they go. They're very careful and they're very knowledgeable about it, and you can't tell the difference because I've tasted it. But they will eat. Now, Mama drinks you'd call it a smoothie that has vitamins and minerals in it from fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. She flies around all the time and she needs that. She's in full contact with gamma, so she needs higher oxidant levels than the meat can give her. So she does supplement her diet that way. They have a drink that they drink. A lot of people on board will tell you, they gave me a drink. You bet that helps block gamma radiation from destroying you. And it helps heal you too. It's really good stuff.
Do they
come
like
in 2 or 3 different colors? Huh?
Do they like veggie burgers?
I don't think so. I don't know. I've never seen them talk about it. I've never seen that happen. I don't like them, so I don't know. I tend to be a little bit more carnivore than herbivore also.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay.
Gosh,
You
we
mentioned-
need, I have a million more questions. All right, go ahead, Rob. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you mentioned that you saw a famous musician on one of your journeys. Who is that?
I was a young girl, and I was on a mothership, and I was being transported, and I was in what they call a holding pattern. I was there for about 2 or 3 days, and I was walking from where you eat. I was autonomous. I was given the ability to walk around freely because I was trusted. They knew where I was at all time anyway. And so I was walking from where I ate, and there was a common area. And there was this man sitting in the room, and everybody was listening to him play a guitar. And I was mesmerized by the music. It was beautiful. He had, oh my God, this man could play guitar. And I'm watching him, and I started to walk to my room, and I went, nope, I'm going back. And I went and sat next to him, right next to him. And he smiled at me. And I put my hand on the guitar while he was playing, fascinated me. And he said, you want to touch it? You want to play it? And I, yes, and he put it in my hand, and he showed me 3 chords. He showed me C, G, and E. Okay. And he got me to hum with him, and it was magical to me. It was my first introduction to a guitar, and I wanted to play after that, which I do. I knew he was. He said, my name is Jimmy. I was like, oh, cool. And he said, I don't know if you would like my last name. And I said, what's your last name? And he said, Hendrix.
Oh my God.
And I was like, cool, Jimi Hendrix. And I fell in love with him kind of, okay? And I had only seen him that one time. I spent maybe 45 minutes with him total.
Wow.
And a few years after that, I became despondent because I was talking to Preston. It dawned on me that, I don't live in the same world y'all do. My life is so compartmentalized. I'm with them mostly, and I don't pay attention to a lot around here, okay?
You didn't know he was dead?
No, I did not. I cried my eyes out. I was like, oh my God, he's dead. He's a beautiful man. So,
have you asked the ETs where he went, where he is? If you can, was he taken to another planet?
I don't know anything about that. That's the horror for me. All I know is that he played a guitar and he was sweet.
Wow.
It is known that he was a contactee. He's passed away now, but he did go public, describing several UFO encounters as a child, very close-up sightings, and never really talked about direct contact. But his bandmate, Brian Knight, I think his name was, or Brian McKnight. At any rate, they were up in upstate New York and were driving around in their van and got snowed in on the roads. It was a very dangerous situation. They could freeze to death. And a UFO landed right in front of them. An ET came out, it walked around their van, melted all the snow, and started communicating telepathically with Jimmy. This was all described by his bandmate. And afterwards, his bandmate's like, well, what the heck? and Jimmy says, shh, this is our secret. We don't talk about it. But Jimmy made some really profound statements. He says there's going to be huge changes coming to humanity. Our whole solar system will change. He said this publicly.
Yeah, he also wrote a song about his own death 5 years ahead of his time of death, and he predicted it to the, I don't know if it's to the day but to the year.
He was only 27 though.
Yeah,
when he died. He was part of the 27 club.
Yeah.
The ETs loved musicians. Look at John Lennon, Miley Cyrus, the Moody Blues, Demi Lovato. I could go on. They contact people who are doing good work for humanity. So you will see nurses like Dolly, animal rights activists, social workers, teachers.
They like writers?
Yes.
Okay, good.
That's good.
So, Dolly, you said they have left now about a year and a half ago. Are you still in contact with them at all?
Yes, I stay in constant contact with Talata and Mama.
Okay.
We have drones around us. We have thousands and thousands of drones surrounding us right now. And we have sentinels in our system that are watching as things are occurring. because we're not the only ones changing our poles. Other planets are as well. So they're watching all of that, and they're watching the situation with our timeline as far as what's happening and where we're progressing to in the upcoming events. So yes, they have a way to watch us.
Wow. Well, this has been really fascinating.
Wow, this has been great.
Dolly. Yeah, really enjoyed having you on. Thank you very much. And Preston,
and
of course.
Preston, I mean,
yeah.
Preston, I have one more question for you. When did you move to LA? Before or after you met Dolly?
Oh, I lived in LA for most of my life. I moved out of LA recently.
Okay.
Yeah, my family moved there from Illinois when I was just a little boy. The city got to be too much. I mean, I couldn't handle having 2 million people around me in every direction.
Yeah, right.
That's
I can imagine.
understandable.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you acted on Dolly's information.
Oh, I was planning on moving well before I met Dolly. I knew, like I said, all the messages Dolly's getting, I've been hearing from many other contactees. I've been planning to move out of LA, but it's very difficult to extricate yourself from any situation.
Right.
But I know that people are not always able to move, but you can do little window gardens. You can, collect food for a year or two. It's not that hard to do. Food is definitely pricey, but it's still affordable.
Yeah.
And it's important to do what you can.
Right.
And move away from fear, live your life, have fun. That's the most important. We're all going to be just fine.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you guys. We'll send you the link when this goes up. John, when's it going up?
Today, actually.
Okay.
We'll talk about that in a minute. But
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Well, thank you guys. And please, if there's any screaming headline for you, let us know.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm serious. Okay. Thank you.
I promise. I will.
Much appreciated.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Bye now.
thanks for joining the Mystical Underground. Visit www.themysticalunderground.com for the latest blog post and book info. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or your favorite podcast app. Listen to the podcast at podcast.themysticalunderground.com. Follow Trish and Rob on Instagram at Trish and Rob McGregor. Follow us on Twitter at The Mystic Cast. Send email to podcast@themysticalunderground.com. And until next week, thank you for listening and stay mystical.